Because of this woman, there have been an increasing number of people shot in the state of Illinois, and many of them are celebrities. Because of her, Chuck Norris was shot here. So was Jane Fonda. She's the reason that Goldie Hawn is preparing to shoot dozens of local athletes, and that Richard Pryor is getting shot on this very day in Peoria. She is Susie Kellett, director of the Illinois Film Office, and while she's shooting them here, she's slaying them in Hollywood. We'll find out how, next on Dimensions. This is My Bodyguard, directed by Tony Dill, produced by 20th Century, and starring Adam Baldwin and Chris Makepeace. It was filmed on location right here in Illinois. My Bodyguard is one of 141 films and television shows which have been shot in Illinois in the last 10 years. These productions have spent an estimated $170 million in our state and have created 70,000 temporary jobs here.
Moody?
I'm Joan Mcgrath. This is Dimensions. Today, Susie Kellett, director of the Illinois Film Office, the woman responsible for making money by making movies right here in Illinois. Why was Governor Dan Walker in 1975 so farsighted that he decided that Chicago should become the next Hollywood of the Midwest?
Well, what was happening, it was an interesting movement that was happening in the country, and I have to credit the beginnings of the Illinois Film Office to Lucy Salinger, who was well known. What was happening was that, and a major force, was the minicam on network news. For years, people had had their news delivered at an anchor desk with still photographs flashed up behind them. Suddenly, with the minicam, they were taken out on location. They could see the news, they could hear it, they could almost taste it and feel it. And there was a tremendous surge of realism that was put into their viewing. And the American public developed a real craving for realism. So they started to transfer this into the entertainment areas of feature film and television. And states, at the same time, as filmmakers started leaving the borders of California, states started taking a look at this new form of economic development. It was literally found money. A film company comes in, you don't put in schools, you don't put in sewer systems, you don't build them streets. They come in, they use what you have, they hire your people, and they leave the dollars behind. In a lot of ways, it is a very, very pure industry with tremendous returns.
Why Illinois? Why not Indiana, Ohio, Texas?
Well, they're there too now. What made Illinois so attractive was outside of Los Angeles and New York, Chicago is the one other place, and in 1975 was the one other place where you could get a crew, where you had a talent base from the theaters here, where they had already a great deal of supplementary equipment, services, and supplies available here because of the commercial industry. So there was a base on which to build, and after several years of selling Los Angeles on coming into Illinois, expanding and developing new businesses, Illinois was literally launched.
Is it cheaper for a Hollywood producer to come and work in Chicago? Are LA prices no longer realistic?
It's cheaper if he will hire his entire crew and most of his talent out of Chicago. If you're going to bring them in from Los Angeles, put them up in hotels, pay them meals, the per diems, the transportation is very expensive. One of the other things is this is a state that's still very excited about filmmaking. Reasonable fees are paid for locations. The rates for the crews are reasonable. The rates for talent are reasonable. The hotels are very eager to have the business.
How often does it happen, though, Susie, that a filmmaker will come in from Hollywood and actually use the talent here in Chicago? Isn't it true that mostly they bring their cameramen, they bring their art directors, they bring their high-priced on-camera talent?
Well, what's happening now, for years, they brought practically everybody. I mean, this is 60, 70, 80 people. Now what they're doing is they have fully realized the value of the state and what we have to offer. They will bring in their keys, which are the people that you mentioned, producer, director, production manager, often production designer, but below that level, and director of photography. But other than that, almost everybody else on the crew is local. So you're talking, you know, anywhere from 60 to 100 jobs on every feature or television production.
Is that part of your role, part of your responsibility, to encourage a producer to use local talent?
Yes, I mean, our job almost has no job description because we will do practically anything to make sure that they have the best experience possible and get everything that they need. We do everything from locations, cutting through red tape, establishing them in communities, to finding them doctors, to finding them health clubs, places to hold their wrap parties. But basically, one of the ways that we sell the state is to go out to Los Angeles 3 or 4 times a year when we're sitting with the heads of production of Paramount or Columbia or Universal or producers and directors. Basically what's going through their mind is they want the best production value for the least amount of money. And knowing that they have a very brief attention span for sales trips, you have about 7 minutes to state your case. So you talk about labor, you talk about cost-saving elements of filming in Illinois, what the film offices can do, both our office and the mayor's film office in the city of Chicago. And also our reputation is very solid. Illinois is very well known for getting the job done, being a partner to a film company, and making it as easy as possible.
And recently, within the last 10 years, Illinois has become known as a place where things can really happen. Is it not true that when Mayor Daley was alive, you simply couldn't come to Illinois and film anything that was the least bit derogatory about Chicago, the least bit gangster image-ridden about Chicago? The man simply did not want that image perpetrated in film.
Well, he was very concerned about the image, and he saw the city as a father would see a child. And it is absolutely true that filmmaking is disruptive. There's no way that it isn't a little frenetic and a little crazy. And he wanted to see his city work. And, you know, you bring a film company into the Northwestern Station, things are closed down for a while. Streets are closed down. Restaurants are closed down. And he was not as enthusiastic as possible. But even at the end of his time frame, he was beginning to realize that the industries as we know it, like the major smokestack industries, were really dying, and that the cities and states were going to have to start looking at new forms of economic development. And really this was one that its momentum was building and it was going to be successful. And then of course after that with Mayor Byrne and so forth, it just was launched.
You were created under the Walker administration. We're now in a completely different administration,
Right.
the Thompson administration. Do you get any flack from Springfield? You have a budget of $350,000 a year. Are you ever a political football? It would be so easy, so visible to scratch that $350,000.
I mean, they do say, you know, we are closing steel mills. Why are we funding a film office? But the fact is we have a 75-to-1 return. For every dollar the state spends, we bring in, at the minimum, 75. And I think that we have proven ourselves as hardworking. There are only 7 in the film office. We average in the range of $18 million a year direct cash that we bring into the state. And I think now they realize that we're a good investment. And we have had tremendous support. I mean, where else can you go to the head of corrections or transportation or law enforcement, and in one phone call you can get almost every time exactly what you need? That's how I feel the real impact of the governor and the governor's office, is they have created an environment that allows the film office to work, and that's very important to us.
Have you ever encountered resistance on the part of the shopkeeper who's on the block that you want to close down?
Yeah.
Has that ever jeopardized a film in Illinois, that you got resistance on the part of individuals?
Well, it happens occasionally, and I understand that. The thing that we make perfectly clear is that the film office is liaison between the location and the production community. And the state and all its locations are going to be here long after the film company has left. We spend a great deal of time preparing a community for filmmaking, making sure everything is okay when the whole thing is done. We're never going to force a film company on anybody. If a shopkeeper says, look, I'm going to lose a lot of revenue, this is more hassle than it's worth, we'll say, listen, we understand that. Fine, we'll find another place. There's almost always another place to be found. But I must say, for the number of projects, it has happened very, very seldom.
On the other hand, you must have to move mountains. How was the office, and this was a little before your time, how was the office able to convince the Civic Center that John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd could drive a car through a plate glass window on their property.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, I was not there. I wasn't with the film office then, but I've heard Lucy Salinger tell this story. It was easier than you would think. I mean, smaller things have been bigger problems than that.
No.
Well,
no.
actually, no, that Aykroyd and Belushi went up to see the mayor, and they were chatting away and asked where they could get a great Chicago pizza, and sort of in one breath they said, oh, and we'd like to drive a car through the plate glass window of Daly Center. And the woman, without batting an eye, looked at the people in the room and said, does anybody have any problem with that? And nobody said they did, and she said, fine, just replace the glass. And that was it. It was a done deal.
That film must have been more responsible than anything for indicating to Hollywood filmmakers that Chicago's a place where things can happen. There were a number of pictures before that. So in so many people's minds, the Blues Brothers was sort of the launch. The watershed.
Yeah. And there were many before, but what that did is exactly what you said. It suddenly made filmmakers sit up in New York and California and say, my Lord, look what we can do in that state now. There was virtually nothing, practically, that wasn't done in that film. And I'm sure there were a lot of heart attacks by the film office at that time in getting all of that cleared. But it's been a terrific selling piece.
In terms of getting things done in the city of Chicago, we have a piece, a clip of a recently released film that indicates how things really get done, no matter how disruptive they may potentially be to the city. This film clip is from Code of Silence, and it shows you a little bit of how disruptive the entire CTA system must have been when Chuck Norris came to town. Take a look. Code of Silence is an Orion release. It's wonderful. A very exciting moment in film. You said the L is going to be used again?
Well, yes, but I'll tell you one of the sequences in that you don't see is that fall was done in two parts. The first, they went off the top of the car into a net, and then from the net they went down into the water. When you saw it there, it was all just one very smooth move, but they did not actually go from the top of the L car all the way down.
Oh, you're destroying my illusions.
Oh, I know it. Isn't it awful? But what I was going to say, and I in a way hesitate to say this, except we're beginning to work on another project right now for a major studio for this fall, and one of the primary things that they want is to be able to run a car chase down the L tracks, put two cars on it, and and have them run down the L tracks and then dive into a tunnel with hopefully the vision of a train coming at them. Now,
can you make their dreams happen?
That's the CTA. I know. They know what they're going to be asked to do. I think there's probably going to have to be a compromise in here somewhere. But it is these kinds of situations which we are often put in. The city will be greatly involved. The mayor's film office, which absolutely can do miracles, will have a great deal to do with that. But there is that moment when you're sitting and reading these scripts going, oh. But one way or another, they're done.
Have you ever refused a script, Sissy? Have you ever found a script that was either totally impossible, they wanted to close State Street for a week, or was philosophically a little difficult to swallow?
No, we haven't. We have been very, very fortunate. One of the situations that a state or a city does not want to get into is censorship. The minute any film office begins to perform any kind of censorship, then you will absolutely cut your lifeblood. The motion picture industry will absolutely say, that's it. Their creative freedom is taken. What we do in cases, we have not had any scripts where we've had a problem like that. It is more situational logistics that are incredibly difficult. And what you do then is, before you even begin, you think through the whole process as carefully as you can. You bring in all of the key people who would have anything to do with any of the filming of, say, a major stunt, an explosion, or this, so that all your bases are covered. Because Hollywood averages $50,000 a day to make a motion picture. That's $12,000 an hour. They cannot afford to have the cameras stop. And a picture is totally made in pre-production. Once the camera rolls, everything should be in place. So what we do is very slowly and methodically work these things through, bring the right people in, try to talk to the filmmakers and say, we'll make this work for you, but you're going to have to work with us every step of the way.
How much does that cost me as a taxpayer? When firemen are involved, when policemen are involved, when a city essentially gets closed for a number of hours?
It doesn't cost you a cent. It's all paid for. The film company pays for off-duty policemen, pays for off-duty firemen, pays for the right to close off streets, pays location fees, and all of that, and then pays a location fee for the use of a physical facility. So literally, it's not costing you anything.
It's obvious that your job does not stop just because the film has come to Illinois.
No.
But I want to backtrack to that beginning stage. How do you know? Where's the grapevine that Susie Kellett hears that a film is available out there that maybe someplace in Illinois it would be appropriate to shoot it? Got spies?
No, it's hard. One of the things I should say before I even start is that there are 135 offices in the United States and Canada just like ours. The competition is so intense. It is not, our leads are not usually gotten from trades like Daily Variety, Hollywood Reporter, Weekly Variety, On Location. We get leads from going out to Los Angeles. We get leads from repeat business, from Columbia's been in before, Columbia comes in again. Or somebody will say, I understand that so-and-so's got a picture. I think you ought to call them, it might work. I also know when a production company calls us, which they do more often than us finding them, they find us, I know that there are at least 5 or 6 other states that are competing for the same picture. It's like, where would time be without Newsweek? It's the same kind of thing. Then it gets down to quick response, thorough research, really selling every little item you have to the filmmaker to tell them why Illinois is the best place to make pictures. We work on probably 4 times as many pictures as we ever get, and I think that's probably about the average. You lose them because financing is pulled, weather becomes a problem, the picture's delayed, and it's a summer picture and it goes in November and it's not going to work, so they need a southern state. There are lots of reasons why they don't go.
And the lack of predictability of weather in Chicago should be a discouraging factor anyhow.
Or somebody goes on strike and then the whole industry shuts down. But I have to say that I think the Illinois Film Office, one of the things is that makes it, even though it's only 7, is that I think Hollywood knows we always go the extra mile. We always make that one more phone call. We sacrifice our nights, our weekends, whatever time is necessary to get this picture laid out, because we will reap the benefits of it, and it's worth it for that time period.
Didn't I read recently that you made the ultimate sacrifice of being forced to spend a day with John Travolta?
It was just tragic.
Yeah. Driving around the North Shore in Lake Forest so that he could shoot in a ritzy suburb.
I tell you, you can't take the boy anywhere. He slowed me down, so I had this schedule all laid out for this picture that he may or may not do here. It's his first directing position. And I had everything laid out, and the thing that amazed me so much about it was everywhere we went, nobody thought it was a John Travolta lookalike. They all just knew it was him. And he was gracious, he was kind, he was funny, he was wonderful. So it was a great day.
You think we'll get the film? Are you superstitious?
I hope so. This is a real tough one. It wouldn't be until next fall, and there's going to be a lot of work that's going to have to be done, but I think we have a very good shot at it.
In a sense, the film office under your directorship, and you've been there since October of '73 as head of the office,
Right.
has shifted in emphasis a little. Heretofore, the major magnet was bringing Hollywood producers to Chicago. But Susie Kellett wants to develop Chicago filmmakers and create a production center that's uniquely and exclusively from the bottom up Chicago.
Right.
How are you going about it, and what's your success so far?
Well, basically, it has taken 10 years to become recognized as a major production center, and Illinois is. But I firmly believe that our future health and growth is going to lie in supporting and developing local filmmakers, helping producers, writers, and directors in Illinois to make a commitment to live, stay, and work here. They need financing, they need distribution for their projects, they simply need knowledge. One of the things I would like to start to do is that all these years, these brain trusts have been coming in, the producers, the directors, the writers. I would like, if possible, to tap into these people as they're in from Los Angeles and see on a Sunday afternoon whether they would sit down for 2 hours, a writer sit with local writers or a producer sit with local producers who can answer those basic in-the-trenches kinds of questions. How do I get started? How did you ever get started? What do I have to do? And let them learn from the experts. I think that's one thing that we can do. As well as look into financing sources for them. That's very difficult to do, but I think that's going to be another major step. And developing and helping writers to write about the state and want to make their scripts here.
As my industry, broadcasting, proliferates, as cable television comes in, as the demand for more and more product for television
Right.
increases, is it possible that Illinois, Chicago specifically, can wrest away from Hollywood the television production that, to this point in time, has always been a province of Hollywood? We've never seen it anywhere else.
I do not think that we will ever be in LA or New York, but I think we can be a major regional production center in our own right. One of the big avenues will be home video. I mean, it is growing by leaps and bounds all the time. The talent is here. I mean, I know people who are on just the cutting edge of moving into low-budget features, small television ventures. They need the support. They need the help. I think people have felt for a long time that the film office only serviced Los Angeles production companies. We have thousands of location photos. We have production guides. We have enormous resources in our heads and on file. We can help people right now, even in the commercial documentary, educational filmmaking business. We can make their life a whole lot easier. But we haven't been doing that, and that's our responsibility to go out and say, hey, you know, we are here for you as well. But I can't make promises I can't keep. I mean, I have to say again, there are only 7 of us, and we will do everything we can for whoever we can, but we're limited. So
how do you interface with the Chicago Film Office? They were a Johnny-come-lately.
they're wonderful. We work with them all the time. Basically, their jurisdiction is the city of Chicago, although we scout, both of us scout in the city. Once you go out of the parameters of Chicago, then the rest of the state is us. The scene that you saw from Code of Silence, basically all the details for that stunt were coordinated through the mayor's film office. They permit, they provide police support, they will post streets with no parking signs so that the film vehicles can be close to the movie site. They are remarkable, for as small as they are, how they get everything done. I don't know how they do it.
I'm not sure whether I should be jealous of your job or say, oh my God, it's humongous. I couldn't possibly ever imagine doing so much work. Is what you do glamorous? Do you consider it that way?
I think people envision it as being glamorous. I think it's very detail-oriented and very gritty. I mean, we spend very little time on the sets. We do not go out with the movie stars. We see producers and directors. We primarily are getting them launched, finding locations. We work probably more closely with the location manager and the production manager than anybody else in the entire crew. And if we're on a set, we stop just to make sure everything is being filmed smoothly, that the location people are okay. Before I came here, we were out on the Goldie Hawn set for First and Goal for Warner Brothers. And we just wanted to make sure everything was all right. And the principal of the school came walking across the football field, and there's that little sense that you have in your head, is this an uh-oh, or he looks happy? You sort of take a real fast reading on his face. And I think basically he's thrilled. I think he finds this very exciting for his students, and is making a little money for the school, and it should be a wonderful film.
How'd you get there? Was it that old showbiz adage, being in the right place at the right time? What qualifies you?
Nothing. No, I fell into this. I was working for Time magazine as their Midwest photo researcher and editor, so I was very visually oriented and had been working in stills for a long time. And then I finally thought that it would be time to change jobs, and I understood that Lucy Salinger was looking for an assistant, and it seemed to me transferring the detail orientation of photo editing to film. And I went and interviewed and was hired for the job. And I was an absolute novice. I did not know anything, and it was the fastest cram course of my life. And I thought, I don't know if this is right or wrong. It's nice to be on this side, feeling quite comfortable with it.
Did you ever have any aspirations to be in show business?
Never.
Ever want to crash Broadway?
No.
Break into Hollywood?
No, never. And actually, I could not imagine moving to LA or New York. But at 14, I did plaster my bedroom walls with covers of Photoplay magazine. And I do think that my destiny was determined at that moment. Yes.
One of the other very fascinating things about you is that you're the mother of quadruplets. How do you balance 4 10-year-old kids with a job like yours?
It's real hard. They now are at the age when they are enormously helpful to me, and they understand sort of what I do, and they're beginning to take a great deal of pride in this business that their mom does. And I'll be, chauffeuring somewhere, and they'll say to a friend, "Do you want to know anything about movies? You just ask my mom. She knows everything about movies." I think it's been real hard for them. I try to take them to the sets. I take them to the office. But they're great little kids, and they're very patient, and when I'm home, I'm really home for them. And it seems to be working. I don't know how.
You see yourself staying in this job? There's more to be done that you feel
yeah,
that you want to be the one to do?
Yeah, I think it is marvelous. I am so proud of where we've come from and where we are. This community here is really something. And all the progress the labor unions have made, and the crews who sacrifice enormous time, the talent that is just now being realized. This is the 10-year anniversary of the Illinois Film Office, actually 1985, and it's a real milestone for us. And I see us now moving into slightly different directions, and I would like to be around for a while and watch it happen, help make it happen.
I wish you the very best of luck.
Thank
it's an
you.
Exciting job, and you're doing an exciting job with
Thanks.
it. Susie Kellett's been my guest. She puts the business in show business for the state of Illinois. I'm Joan Mcgrath. Have a good day.